So there is an ongoing discussion in Hollywood about intimacy coordinators. Some stars are pro, others are against it. Most of the stars who are against intimacy coordinators are from the older generations, which didn't have them for the majority of their careers. The younger stars are very much in favor of this role. And Florence Pugh is one of them. She recently spoke about having both negative and positive experiences with intimacy coordinators on movies, but she didn't name which ones. And this was from her recent appearance on the Louis Theroux podcast. She said in this interview, it's not to get in the way. It's not to confuse. It's not to make things more complicated or make things more awkward. I've had good ones and bad ones. And she says it's a job that is still figuring itself out since they have existed for such a short period of time, post Me Too. I'm having fantastic experiences with intimacy coordinators. However, I've also had a shit example where someone just made it so weird and awkward and really wasn't helpful and kind of was just wanting to be part of the set in a way that wasn't helpful. I think it's a job that's still figuring itself out. I will say I've been able to understand better meaning now through working with great ones in sex scenes about finding the story of what it is. What kind of sex is it? How do you touch each other? How long have you been having sex for? Everybody's just kind of working away to chip at the scene. And I think when I worked with a fantastic coordinator, I was like, oh, this is what I've been missing. Understanding the dance of intimacy as opposed to just shooting a sex scene.
It actually
there
feels
are good
like
ones and bad ones, and it's through the good ones that I've learned how effective it can be. It can really be.
Okay, I'm just going to go through like the metrics of this, which is like, unless you're telling me that you're just letting the coordinator interpret the script their own way, it's just their own interpretation of how it's written. Mm-hmm. Correct? So I don't understand why that perspective would be any different if what they're doing is interpreting what is written on the page as how they're going to advise you to do it. I guess it's just another lens to which to look at the interaction through, but that doesn't really seem like the point of it to me. The point of it is to prevent lawsuits.
Right.
Let's be real.
She thinks that they're there to enhance the art, which is not the case. That's not the reason why those people are on set.
If this was the early 2000s, we'd get a parody movie about a male intimacy coordinator, you know. That's what would happen. And everybody thinks he's a creep, but at the end, he turned out to be gay.
We know that most of the intimmacy coordinators are female.
Yes. I mean, I think it was like 0.1% are male, and I don't even know if I believe that. It's probably actually somebody who, you know, has a different gender considers themselves a different gender than what they were assigned at birth.
Regrettably, both of us have seen Florence Pugh's nipples.
Unfortunately.
I would have preferred to never see them.
She looks like a bottle with the honey bear on it. The bottle of honey.
Yeah, that was in Oppenheimer. Her sex scenes with Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer were deemed incredibly necessary for the plot.
They were not.
When they were not, the argument in favor of those scenes was it's supposed to communicate his anxiety while he's in the interrogation room, and he's sort of hallucinating almost flashbacks to when he was having sex with her character. And it makes him feel vulnerable while he's being interrogated in those scenes. I still don't think that that needed to be included in the movie, but I'm assuming that she wasn't referencing Oppenheimer when she mentioned those negative experiences. Gwyneth Paltrow and Jennifer Lawrence are two other actresses who recently made headlines saying that they felt the intimacy coordinators on set were not necessary. Gwyneth Paltrow was more forthcoming about that. She just thinks that the concept is laughable. Jennifer Lawrence said both positive and dismissive things about intimacy coordinators on her movie with Robert Pattinson. I think those were comments that got widely misinterpreted. And in another clip from this same interview with Louis Theroux, Florence Pugh is complaining about how, as an actress, you can't stand up for yourself on set when the director is being emotionally abusive, because it's going to get you labeled hard to work with or a nightmare. And she's had to rely on male co-stars to stand up for her instead because they receive more respect.
On set, you can't really be a problem because people will say that you're a nightmare.
Really?
And I remember I was doing like a crying scene, and we did it maybe like 6 times, and each time you have to start with no tears and then gear up. So it's like you have to stay in it. And we got it, and the director wanted to go again.
6 times.
He did it 6 times. And when I'm in that state, I'm a bit mushy, so I'm like, okay, we'll do it again. And my co-star went up to the director and said, don't do that, man. Don't put her through that. She's got it. We got it. You got the close-up, you got the wide. Don't do that. And I realized when I was in the tent, I was like, oh, I wouldn't have been able to have said that because that wouldn't have been received well.
Interesting. Was your co-star male or female?
Yeah, male.
Male. Nice that he did that.
Yeah.
Do you think that was the right thing to do?
If they had it, they had it.
Yeah. What did the director say?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Straight away.
So here's the thing. You're never going to know what would have happened if you stood up for yourself instead of the co-star standing up for you. You don't know that it would have been received poorly.
Correct.
You're just assuming that because of your worldview.
You're imprinting on the situation.
Yeah. And Louis Theroux was just sitting there being the ultimate performative male, like, oh my gosh, that must have been so hard for you.
I mean, that's his job in those situations. Those types of podcasts are not, he's not there to push back and be like, well, actually, like, this isn't hard-hitting journalism. It's like when people get mad when Joe Rogan doesn't push back enough. I'm like, bro, like, is that what you expect him to do?
I bet her male co-star also carries tampons in his bag.
And he carries feminist literature in his bag.
Jennifer Lawrence opened up recently about her different experiences with male and female directors. She actually was singing the praises of the director of Die My Love, Lynn Ramsey, saying that male directors have a tendency to micromanage sets, and they're quite authoritarian and are obsessed with involving themselves very heavily in scenes.
In the job of directing, yes, they
whereas
are.
she says female directors, they tend to take a step back and let things play out without getting involved. She said, I found a commonality in female directors, which is that they don't do this thing, which is over-direct. There have been some times when I've worked with male directors where there's this need to constantly feel like they're directing the movie. Wow, it's crazy that a director would want to feel like they're directing the movie. And it's not even really getting anything done. It's just annoying. When I think auteur, my mind goes to controlling and neurotic. And she said Lynn Ramsey was the opposite of that approach. She built this world and made sure we were all on the same page through music and conversations and the atmosphere and the set. And then she would just kind of slowly walk back. And sometimes from the discomfort of that, from the lack of her visibility, something interesting would come from it. And she would come out and be like, that's great. Yeah, do it again. Or we would accidentally laugh and be like, oh, sorry. And she'd be like, no, it was great. I like that you laughed. Do it again.
So I guess the question is, what does an actor prefer? Do they want more direction or less direction? And when it comes down to it, it's going to be on the director to pull those performances from the actor. So if you watch a movie and it's over-directed and they get the exact shots they want, but the director is interpreting the script poorly, that's one problem. It's another problem entirely for a director to just be like, figure it out. Now, I'll give you an example of where it worked in television. So Graham Yost, who did Justified, he was, from what I've read or what I did my research on the show, because I love that show, he was very collaborative with the actors, giving them time to ad-lib and run with scenes in specific ways, leaning into their strengths. That's how you ended up getting Boyd Crowder, who's like a legendary bad guy now. Walton Goggins, that's the role that kind of, maybe it's not the one that made him famous, but a lot of people will always know him as that character. And that's because he leaned into the actor's strengths and gave them room to work. On a film set, that's not really, like, you have to be a bit of an authoritarian because you don't just have the actor's performances to consider, you have time. You have budget. You have, like, if we go over, if we don't get this done by this time, we don't have, we're going to be into overtime and we're going to have to pay people more. Like, there is more to consider than just how the actor performs on screen, though that is perhaps the most important part of it. A lot of it goes into it, and the studio is going to want somebody that can return the performance that they want from the actors. And the less opaque it is, the more of a problem it will be if they don't know what they're getting every day.
My interpretation of both of these remarks from Florence Pugh and Jennifer Lawrence is that whatever style of directing it is, it's the incorrect way if it's a man, and it's correct if it's a woman.
No, I think they would actually like it if they were like, oh, and he was so collaborative. They want him to be collaborative. They don't want him to tell them what they're supposed to do, because that's a certain type of actor is the one who's going to be like, you know, we didn't want to be told what to do. We wanted to all figure it out together. That's not every actor.
Well,
there are plenty of actors who are like, I need to know what you want from me in this scene.
I say that because in regard to the intimacy coordinator, which is just another director on set, really.
Yes.
They want to be micromanaged. But then in regard to the other scenes, they want the director to be almost invisible. And it doesn't really matter what the director is doing. If it's a woman, they're doing the right thing. And if it's a man, they're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, perhaps. It's I'm waiting for the when more female-led movies end up being like rousing successes that will continue. I will continue to sing the praises of Catherine Bigelow, who did a great job as a director long before it became fashionable to attach them to projects because they were women, because it was a male-dominated industry when she was making, you know, for the length of time she was making movies. It wasn't during this overcorrection in 2020 when TV shows are like, you know what, all our episodes are going to be directed by women. Or all our episodes are going to be written by women and things like that, and expecting you to return something that's interesting to everybody when you're hiring on those practices, which nobody actually wants.
I recently saw a post that was calling out Sam Levinson for essentially stealing Euphoria from Petra Collins.
I don't know who that is.
Petra Collins is a female director, but
Okay.
she put out this photo shoot on her Instagram. Sam Levinson reached out and he was like, I love this. Like, I want to develop a show with you for HBO based on this. And Petra Collins worked on it with them for months, and they created the entire concept of Euphoria. And then they, at the end of it, said, well, we don't want to work with you anymore, to Petra Collins, because you're not experienced enough as a director. And then they just had Sam Levinson direct it.
I mean, it does matter that they hire somebody who knows what they're doing. Like, I guess the way
I feel like Petra Collins had her concept stolen.
She
by
probably
Sam
did.
Levinson,
but the problem is like they're spending untold millions of dollars on these projects, just obscene amounts of money dumped into projects that you've never even heard of. And then you wonder why why they should want to hire people with experience, because they need that. That was my problem with the V for Vendetta show that they're making. And for that, you'll have to watch the video tomorrow. But they hired this guy whose name was Pete Jackson. And I'm like, oh my God, Peter Jackson from Lord of the Rings? Holy crap. No, it's a guy named Pete Jackson who directed, yeah, I know, poor guy.
Just Pete.
He directed 2 shows that I'd never heard of. They were probably British shows on networks there. And I'm like, I feel like if you're going to direct the TV version of a movie like V for Vendetta, that you should have at least 10 to 20 credits under your name that signal to someone at DC that this project is in good hands.
So, in reference to the Petra Collins thing, she said that she moved to LA for 5 months to develop Euphoria for HBO.
That's rough,
And
man.
then, and it was initially pitched to her from Sam Levinson, you're going to direct it.
That's rough.
And she created the whole world for it. She did the casting, and last minute HBO was like, we're not hiring you because you're too young. And she said, thank you, accepted it, moved on. And then she assumed that they would not continue developing the show. But then a year later, she says, I walked out of my apartment and saw this billboard, and it's exactly a copy of my work. I started crying. I was so shocked. It happens to me so many times in my career, but not on a scale like that. It was so intense because this is the aesthetic that I had built all my life, and now I have to change it because it enters into the mainstream. It's been taken away from me. The worst thing was when people were unknowingly saying, this show looks like your photos.
How old was he? Or was she? I'm sorry.
At the time, when did Euphoria come out? 2019?
Sounds about right.
I wonder how old Petra Collins is now.
Reminds me of
She's 32 now, so she was still in her mid-20s.
So yeah, okay. So if you don't know who Josh Schwartz is, Josh Schwartz was the creator of The OC, And he's gone on to make like a lot of those types of teen drama or romance shows that women love. He's one of the minds that's likely behind many of the ones that you've seen. And he got the job creating the OC at the age of 26. And that was a huge deal at that time because he was the youngest showrunner. And to this day, one of the things they talk about, if you listen to channels that love to go deep into film lore, is like people expect to just come to Hollywood today and be a showrunner. Like, no, like you were expected in the past that you'd have 20 or 30 years of experience in the industry before they put hundreds of millions of dollars in front of you and said, create this. It sucks that they stole her idea. They probably did that because they probably knew from the beginning that she wasn't going to do it and they just wanted the concept.
Yeah.
But them's the breaks, and she should have unfortunately hired a lawyer that could do some type of guarantee, and if they were going to balk at the guarantee, then she walks away with her concept.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of that story, but I feel bad for her. But in that industry, you should not be looking for showrunners that are in their 20s, because if one ends up being good, that will be the exception and not the rule. There is a reason why Vince Gilligan is now one of the most sought after minds in entertainment. Before Breaking Bad, which is of course the cultural phenomenon that it was, he was doing the X-Files and not as the showrunner. Back in I don't know if he started in 1993, but he was one of the most important voices on the X-Files, and we're going all the way back to the early 90s. So you need the experience and you need the time there, but it's almost like it doesn't matter anymore because there's just so much garbage that they have to put out every year. Like, why not give Dead End Paranormal Park to Hamish Steele because nothing fucking matters.
Right. There's an oversaturation.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.